Everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for taking the time to purchase and support. This will be the fourth book in the 5 books of Moses in the Bible series. And, getting into Numbers. Numbers is one of those books where, it really just goes with the whole theme of the 5 books of Moses, which is, dealing with the law. And, what they basically had to do, and what the 5 books of Moses is really about, is they had to basically, take these stories. They had to basically give us stories that would teach and indoctrinate and basically fool the congregation, while at the same time keeping away from them the true esoteric knowledge that's in the book. Yet, at the same time, reveal that esoteric knowledge to the initiated and conscious people. So you had these books where they had to really get you into the story, teach you about rules and laws, and get people to basically abide by those laws and be hooked on the sermon that the preacher preaches in the 5 books. So while people was getting the word and listening to these stories and getting sucked into the story, they wasn't really paying attention or not even really understanding the true hidden meaning behind the stories and, all of the real parables that's hidden in the books. So they would be indoctrinated and basically, brainwashed, as we say, into following these laws and rules. At the same time, the people who are initiated, the people who are in these secret societies could look at these stories and understand the esoteric nature of it. So it's no different in Numbers. As we talked about in Leviticus, Exodus, Genesis, you have right now basically the Israelites coming out of Egypt and basically, going through this whole test. When you really pay attention to the whole overall thing, they are to basically learn and understand what God wants of them, what they are supposed to be doing, and have obedience. And this is the crazy part that's hard to believe when you start really getting into the story. The utter disobedience of these people in the face of real power that they have bear witness to, for them to be doing what they're doing, is just crazy, which we'll touch on. But when you pay attention and you look at Numbers and you really see really most of the book, as you'll see, it's really just more reiterating laws, but still it's going to give us this story, which we're going to get into. But not only is the 5 books of Moses giving us, astrology, giving us, math, giving us physics, science. Not only are we getting these things from it, we are also getting the history of the Greeks, which I have talked about. We are also basically getting a story. A lot of people say it's our history. Well, it's our hidden history when you understand. But it's basically the history of the rise of the Europeans and how they stole our shit. Plain and simple. How they stole from us. And it's right in front of our face. And it's so sick that most of the Europeans that read the book, they don't want to believe that they are capable of such atrocities and that such things happen. They turn their head to it. While at the same time, black people, we have hope. It's so bad and it's so crazy what happened, and it seems so hopeless when you're getting into the story. It's one of the reasons why a lot of black people cling to the hope that the book is real, in hopes that everything we're reading is not possible and that these things did not come true, and that there is something good out there that will help us get through, what we have faced. So now, from Genesis up to now to Numbers, as you read and you see, Moses and Aaron is spending this time breaking down these laws and commandments to the Israelites. Now, the Israelites spend time keep breaking these laws. It's crazy, as I said, for them to have bear witness to so many miracles and things that was done for them to be still, doubting, having any kind of doubt. If you've seen Moses part the sea, you've seen all the locusts and the firstborn die and everything that happened to these people. Now, mind you, this is not a people that just been around the world, have been traveling and seen so much stuff. They're not impressed. These are people that have supposedly been in bondage for years. All they know is slave labor, work. Any kind of power you would think they would be like, wow, especially the power to bring them out of Egypt and have them out moving towards, their supposed promised land. You would think they would be stern and thankful, I should say, with what they done. They should be really understanding what Moses is trying to do for them and listening to every word. But no, they spend a lot of time repeatedly breaking these same commandments and everything that we read. And so that's weird. But you got to understand, Numbers is basically trying to cover for the fact that, one, we can't prove none of this stuff. We can't prove this whole Exodus and the whole journey and everything like that. And when you really get into it, Numbers would basically be taking place around the time of the Diadochi War, which you'll understand in a second why. But, when you first get into it, first start getting into Numbers, you see that Moses is basically taking a census of the people, which a census is a count, hence the name Numbers. He's taking the census of the people that they have that's basically with them as they're leaving Egypt. So, verse 1 starts off, "And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of the congregation on the first day of the second month, in the second year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel, after their families, by the house of their father, with the number of their name, every male by their polls. From 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war." Understand me, say it again. From 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel, thou and Aaron shall number them by their armies. So now we understand that the Hebrews are coming out of Egypt and they're on this journey. They're on this long journey from Egypt to get to the promised land, which is, we know, Israel. So now understand, it does not take, 40 years, however long. You'll see why. But it don't take that long for them to walk from Egypt to Israel. It should have only taken them, about 6 days. But you factor in stops and setting up camp and sleeping and eating and everything, you can round that up to a month. You can round that up to freaking, almost a month and a half. It shouldn't took them 40 years. So stuff is going to happen, as you'll see. But of course, we know this is basically hiding the real story of what's going on. So again, when you put this into context, as I said, you're putting it with basically the wars of the Diadochi, what basically took place. And understanding is talking about numbers. Now you'll see he's talking about them taking the families. When you start reading chapter 1, going through the families and basically picking out the most noblest families, the strongest families. Because now they're basically splitting up the land. This is basically them giving you the backstory of what's taking place. The hidden story is what has taken place after they conquered Egypt. So now the families are splitting up this land, and now they're counting the families and splitting up this land and putting the noblest families in certain places. That's basically what's really taking place here. And they're counting the numbers. And the only reason why they're counting the numbers and putting together these different armies is because, guess what? We know they're going to go conquer and take more African lands. That's what it's really about. Them now looking at what they got, assessing the people they have, putting together the armies to go on ahead and take more African land, as you'll see. So now it says here, and Moses and Aaron took these men, and this is Numbers 1:17. Moses and Aaron took these men, which are expressed by their names, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names, from 20 years old and upward, by their polls. As the Lord commanded Moses, so he numbered them in the wilderness of Sinai. And the children of Reuben, Israel's oldest son, by their generations after their families, by the house of their fathers, according to the number of their names, by their polls, every male from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war. Understand what they're talking about. War. Now, as you basically go on through the chapter, it's basically going to go through all the names of these people, because we understand it's 12 tribes. But within each tribe, we're talking about it's a bunch of different families. So you got one tribe, and you still got like maybe 100 different fathers, generations of people in just one tribe, and then so on and so forth. It's a lot of people we're talking about. But you understand, you have them basically coming out of Egypt. They supposedly fled out of Egypt. Remember, they running on a run supposedly. But now they're getting together, they're gearing up and getting the people together for battle, for war against who? They're supposed to be getting led to the promised land. So, why are these people getting ready to fight when they didn't really want to stand and fight against the Egyptians, but now they coming together to put together armies? You got to understand when they're giving you the story. This, in Masonic teaching, when you understand, it's supposed to go with real history. And that history would be, when you add it up, the wars of the Diadochi, which it'll make sense, because this is what's happening around this time. Boom, we took this land, we got it, we did it. There's other Egyptian territory, African people's land, we have to go in and conquer in order for us to accomplish what they want to accomplish. So that's what they're going forth and doing. So now and again, one of the things that they do, and this is where the common sense come in, they really test your common sense. If you are willing to allow your common sense to not ask very basic, simple common sense questions, if you're willing to forego that and listen to what this preacher man is telling you and just ignore the very common sense questions that should be in your mind, then there you go. They got you. You are now indoctrinated, because this is exactly what's taking place. The first thing you should ask yourself is this. One, it's called numbers. This is God Almighty. Knows all, sees all, what have you. How is it that God don't know the numbers? Why does Moses have to go and number these people? God should know. He should know exactly how many people it is, who is what, and he should be able to just give it to Moses easily. But you have to think about the thousands of people, how much time it would take for them to count and number all these people. This is God that's supposed to know. And he doesn't give them this answer. He makes them do the stats. It's one of the things you got to think about. So now they're basically going on. They counted these people up, and now they're going to go into this land, and Moses is going to send spies. He's going to send spies. And again, the question you got to ask yourself, why does God got to tell Moses to send spies to spy on this land that he should know everything about? So now, when the first couple chapters is basically saying, you can see it yourself, it's talking about these group of people belong to this, and so on. It goes through all the names and a whole bunch of names, and it's a bunch of bullshit. So we're going to skip forward to 13, and it's saying here, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, send thou men, that they may search the land of Canaan, which I give unto the children of Israel. Of every tribe of their fathers shall ye send a man, every one a ruler among them. And Moses, by the commandment of the Lord, sent them from the wilderness of Paran. All those men were heads of the children of Israel. I ain't going to go through all the names. So we basically talking about, a bunch of spies went out into Canaan to go spy on what's happening. And it's like, for what? God's supposed to know. He's supposed to understand what's happening. So another question, you got to understand. Now, this is where we're getting to the Amalekites or what have you. If it's going to be God, remember, God gives the Hebrews, the Israelites, the power to defeat these people because they're small in numbers. So God is going to give them the power to defeat them anyway. So if you're going to give these people the power to beat the Amalekites anyway, no matter what, it's a win, hands down. What's the point of going to go spy? What's the point of spying when it's an easy win? When you're going to give them the power to win anyway. There's no point in going down there and spying if you're going to give them the win anyway. But you got to understand the story is there to get you caught up. But you got to still look for, these common sense questions within the story. So now it says in Numbers 13:17, and Moses sent them to spy out the land of Canaan and said unto them, get you up this way southward and go up into the mountain and see the land, what it is, and the people that dwelleth therein, whether they be strong or weak, few or many, and what the land is that they dwell in, whether it be good or bad, and what cities they be that they dwell in, whether it tents or in strongholds. And it says down here in 27, and they told him and said, we came into the land whither thou sendest us, and surely it floweth with milk and honey, and this is the fruit of it. Nevertheless, the people be strong that dwelleth in the land, and the cities are walled and very great. And moreover, we saw the children of Anak there. The Amalekites dwell in the land of the south, and the Hittites, and the Jebusites, and the Amorites dwell in the mountains, and the Canaanites dwell by the sea, and by the coast of Jordan. And now we know. Here we go. It's code again, giving you African civilizations. And a lot of people don't want to put the Hittites and understand that it's two different Hittites. You have a Shemitic Hittite and a Hamitic Hittites when you pay attention. So you have black Hittites who they basically going in and conquering. The Shemitic ones don't come until later on. Actually, the Shemitic ones you don't see until really you start getting this biblical story when they start talking about the whole biblical aspect of the Hittites. But we know black people we're talking about here, where they're going in and conquer. So the backstory, this is easy to see for anybody that's paying attention. You have supposedly God's supposed to give these people this promised land. It's like, okay, you got poof, we supposed to be there. So it's not hard for you to really parallel all of this with the wars of the Diadochi and what's happening after the fall or the conquest of ancient Egypt. They're going out to conquer these other African territories, plain and simple. Send these spies down there and see what's going on. Check these people out. What do they have? And of course, this is Egyptian territory, and they have cities, they have buildings, everything there is nice. The people is big and strong. Don't get fooled by what they saying, calling them Amalekites, and you'll see later what they really talking about. But this is just for them to try to make it look as if these people are scary, to try to get the reader, the congregation, to understand these people are evil monsters or what have you, and they needed to be defeated by God's people. That's all. So you have them putting together this army, getting ready to face what they know is out there, plain and simple. So basically, when you put it towards what the Greeks was doing, everybody know the Greeks' history, the Spartans, the way that Greek men was built, because this is what they was really doing in real life. They had to breed these men for war. Plain and simple, because we was better than them. We was bigger. So when you go and read and you understand how Spartans basically was raising their children, it says here, it began in infancy. When a Spartan baby was born, soldiers came to the house and examined it carefully to determine its strength. The baby was bathed in wine rather than water to see its reaction. If the baby was weak, the Spartans exposed it on the hillside. That's crazy. The Spartans exposed it on a hillside or took it away to become a slave. Infanticide was common in ancient cultures, but the Spartans were particularly picky about their children. It was not just a matter of the family. The city-state decided the fate of the child. Nurses had the primary care of the baby and did not coddle it. Soldiers took the boys from their mothers at age 7, housed them in a dormitory with other boys, and trained them as soldiers. The mother's softening influence was considered detrimental to the boys' education. The boys endured harsh physical discipline and deprivation to make them strong. They marched without shoes and went without food. They learned to fight, endure pain, and survive through their wits. The older boys willingly participated in beating the younger boys to toughen them. Self-denial, simplicity, the warrior code, and loyalty to the city-state governed their lives. And I'm going to skip down here. It says at age 20, remember that at age 20 or so, they had to pass a rigorous test to graduate and become full citizens. Only the soldiers will receive the aristocratic citizenship. If they failed their test, they never became citizens, but periesai, the middle class. So to some extent, class was based on merit rather than birth. If the young men passed, they continued to live in the barracks and train the soldiers. So just like with the Hebrews, with the Israelites, at 20, you can be a soldier, you go to war. It's the same thing commonly known with the Spartans, with the Greeks. At 20, you train for war, you're ready to go to war. It's not a coincidence that's in there. So basically what's taking place, as I said, they know they get ready to go up against some big, strong Africans, And they basically have to get ready and prepare to see if their numbers can basically go up against them. Because it don't matter how strong they is. If you got the numbers, you should be able to win. And that's how they're looking at it. We should have the numbers to basically go up against these people. So what basically takes place, it says in Numbers 13:30, and Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. Moses is confident, like, let's go. But the men that went with him said, we be not able to go up against the people, for they are stronger than we. And they brought up an evil report of the land, which they had searched into the children of Israel, saying, the land through which we have gone to search it is a land that eateth up the inhabitants thereof. And all the people that we saw in it are men of great stature, big dudes. And there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak. Now understand, the sons of Anak supposed to be these long neck giants. In other versions, you'll see them refer to these people as being basically descendants of the Nephilim. You'll see that in some of the books. But saying, and there we saw the giants, the sons of Anak, which come of the giants. And we were in our own sight as grasshoppers, and so we were in their sight. So basically what's taking place here? You have the spies that went out. They basically went out there and they saw, what they saw. Supposedly giants or what have you. They're coming back to Moses and they're like, yo, we can't beat these dudes. They giants. They said we like grasshoppers to these people. So they had to be huge, in that comparison. So they basically bitching up and they like, yo, why you bring us out of Egypt to basically go through what we went through just to get squashed and killed by these people? It's crazy. Let's go back to Egypt. They're actually saying, let's go back to Egypt. So, basically it says here, Numbers 14:1, it's saying, and all the congregation lifted up their voices and cried, and the people wept that night. And all the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron. And the whole congregation said unto them, would God that we had died in the land of Egypt, or would God we had died in this wilderness? And wherefore hath the Lord brought us unto this land to fall by the sword, that our wives and our children shall be a prey? Were it not better for us to return to Egypt? And they said one to another, let us make a captain, and let us return to Egypt. So now again, as I said, it's one of those things, when they beating people, when they going through what they're going through and they seeing these miracles, how could they doubt? And even in the context of, God himself, why put up with this? This is supposed to be a chosen people, especially these people are stubborn. And it's crazy what's going to happen, as you're going to see. But, in 22, he's fed up, and it says here in 22, because all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles, which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now, these 10 times, and have not hearkened to my voice. And the Lord spoke unto Moses and Aaron, saying, how long shall I bear with this evil congregation, which murmur against me? I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel, which they murmur against me. Say unto them, as truly as I live, saith the Lord, as ye have spoken in my ears, so will I do to you. Your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness, and all that were numbered of you, according to your whole number of 20 years old and upward, which have murmured against me. Doubtless ye shall not come into the land concerning which I swear to make you dwell therein, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh, and Joshua the son of Nun. But your little ones, which ye said should be a prey, them will I bring in, and they shall know the land which ye have despised. But as for you, your carcasses, they shall fall in the wilderness, and your children shall wander in the wilderness 40 years, and bear your whoredoms until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness. So now, the Israelites got to wander 40 years because they tired of God bullshitting. When you really pay attention to it, you're supposed to be doing miracles, you're supposed to be God. Like, come on, man, get to the point. And the religious people will look at it as, oh my goodness, you doubting God, and it was just so bad for them. And of course, yeah, after all the miracles and everything they've seen, they're supposed to be trusting of what's going on. Okay. So as Christians will tell you today, you don't question God, you just do what he said. But it's like, come on, man, stop playing. This stuff don't make no sense. It's crazy. Who got time for all this? Just put us there. We wandering all this time. We're going through all this. Just put us in the land. You're supposed to be God, powerful, what have you. So because they're asking rational questions that anybody would ask, they got to wander 40 years. But as the religious person will look at it saying, ye of little faith. So it's crazy. So your carcasses is going to basically be there. You're going to wander for 40 years. Everybody that's basically 20 and up is going to die wandering 40 years, except for Caleb and Joshua. But now really, we understand this whole 40-year crap. The whole reason why I went through the story and told you about all this, and so you can understand, this is really about them trying to make the time fit. Plain and simple. That's all it is. The whole 40 wandering years and all that is just trying to make them fit what happened in that time. The reason why they ain't where they should be. We're talking about a people who left Egypt to go basically travel a route ruled by Egyptians to come into another country ruled by Egyptians. So if they would have got there when they were supposed to get there, clearly, they send out word. I mean, if you pay attention to the story, some Egyptians should have came from Egypt to the other part to at least warn the people, to Israel, to warn people what was going on. And you'll see later on in the Bible that this was taking place after the many wins of the Israelites. People start getting word about them only in the Bible, not in real life. But it don't fit. The whole timeline don't fit. A lot of stuff don't fit, as we'll get into. But the whole 40-year thing is simply to basically try to fit in and make up for the parts of the story that don't make sense, that don't fit in with real time. So now after everything that happened, God snapped, act like a little, had a temper tantrum, God, and basically told Moses what to tell the people. And Moses go tell the people, hey, y'all done messed up. God tired of all this, unfaithfulness, and y'all not really believing in him and everything he's done and this and that. He mad. So we got to wander for 40 years. So let's imagine you're going to have to tell, thousands of people what's about to happen, that you're going to wander for 40 years and you're going to die if you're over 20 and all this stuff that's going on. So they basically go to sleep. They get up the next morning and they're like, man, fuck it. We're going to go kill these Amalekites. And Moses warned them, hey, God is not going to be with y'all. Ark of the Covenant not going to be with y'all. Don't go. Y'all go, y'all going to die. Told them. So they went down there to go fight against the Amalekites, got killed, got slain, plain and simple. So, I mean, basically, again, the whole 40-year thing, as I said, is to basically fit, in real history. Because really what's going on, as the story is trying to convey to you, that they went into these African territories and they seen these big Africans that they could not beat. And it was like, damn, the story is already giving you a hint that they're breeding their army, putting their armies together. Because that's basically what's happening. They had to breed an army. And when you go back, as I read to you, how the Spartans was breeding, that's the whole reason why they was doing that. It's giving it to you right there in numbers. Everything's fitting for you, giving you the Greek story. The whole reason why they was doing that, breeding these big giant, niggas who people didn't worry about nothing. They was all bred to fight and kill, plain and simple. And here you have the African sitting there, a spiritual person, never fathoming what's about to take place. So they had one, and the reason why they did one, they had the element of surprise. Because here you have a spiritual African civilizations, even though we was big and strong and we had warriors or what have you, they just wasn't expecting the war to come the way it did. The amount of big soldiers that just came, that was bred specifically to kill us. And they wasn't expecting it. So the whole 40-year thing is basically that, the numbers. Getting the numbers ready. So that basically happens. Go down there. People, they get killed. They get slain. And of course, these Israelites still don't get it. They're basically doomed already. They're still not getting it. And they like, yo, what's going on? So what you have is you have the sons of Levi. You have a few other people. They basically come together to rebel against Moses and Aaron because they tired. They're like, yo, people got killed. We tired of this. We going to something this up. So they rebel against Moses and Aaron. It says in Numbers, this is number 16. Let's just go down to 3. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron and said unto them, ye take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and the Lord is among them. Wherefore then lift ye up yourselves above the congregation of the Lord. So basically you had a congregation, you got these people coming up, they come down to the tabernacle, and they come up there and they like, you know, y'all always the ones talking to God. How come y'all is above us? Everybody here is supposedly holy. You know, how come y'all putting yourself above the congregation? And start getting people to jump on board. Moses go and talk to God, and God is like, you know, go down there and tell these people that's not with, you know, the sons of Levi and Korah and the people that's the main people that's basically speaking out. Go pull those people away from them. And Moses go down there and he's basically saying, get away from him. Get away from these people. Get away from them. Move back. Now, understand that if these people die, you know, if I kill these people, then I killed these people. But if basically something happened to them, like, you know, the ground opened up and swallow them and kill them, understand it's not me killing them. It's God killing them. So don't get mad at me. God is punishing them for what they're doing. So that's what he's basically saying to them. So if we walk away from here and something happened to them, just know that's not me. That's God. So it says here, but on the morrow, all the congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and against Aaron, saying, ye have killed the people of the Lord. And it came to pass that when the congregation was gathered against Moses and against Aaron, that they looked towards the tabernacle of the congregation, and behold, the cloud covereth it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. And Moses and Aaron came before the tabernacle of the congregation, and the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, get you up from among this congregation, that I might consume them as in a moment. And they fell upon their faces. And Moses said unto Aaron, take a censer and put fire there. And a censer is basically like a candle holder, like an incense holder. And put fire therein from off the altar, and put on incense, and go quickly unto the congregation, and make an atonement for them, for there is wrath going out from the Lord. The plague is begun. So basically Moses is like, hey, you need to run around there real quick and try to, because like if you use incense like an offering kind of sort of for atonement of sins, if you go back and start reading all of the ways in Leviticus that you can atone for your sins, what have you, and in Exodus. So he tells Aaron to go run out there basically with the incense and basically try to repent for all these people, because God about to kill them all. If you read, he like, I'm about to just kill all these people. So he like, yo, go out there. If you go out there with the incense, this is basically going to be like a sign for forgive these people. Don't kill them all. So Aaron is running out there. And Aaron took as Moses commanded, and ran into the midst of the congregation. And behold, the plague has begun among the people. And he put on incense and made an atonement for the people. And he stood between the dead and the living. And the plague was stayed, meaning stopped. Now that died in the plague were 14,700 beside them that died about the matter of Korah. Now Korah was the one who led this whole rebellion. And Aaron returned unto Moses unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the plague was stayed. Now understand, this is just one of those things, again, as I said in the beginning. You have these stories that must be told. This is why we're going through stories. We're going to read a little bit more of the Bible this time in this book, because you got to understand, a lot of this stuff is going to make sense later. Trust me, everything that I'm giving you is for a reason. So, again, the whole thing, as I said in the beginning, you have to have it to where you're giving these stories, but at the same time, you're teaching and indoctrinating the people, giving them discipline, giving a congregation these laws and rules. And I'm talking about on an aspect as, you know, in real life, the church telling these stories to people. Because what now, when you hear these stories, what do people say? This is one of the reasons why people are so adamant about God's will and, you know, God works in mysterious ways and you got to have faith and everything. Because you read stuff like this and hear the littlest doubt, you know. People making common sense judgments, asking common sense questions, killed. And this is what they're trying to put over to the people. I don't care how stupid it sounds. is God. I don't care how dumb it may seem to you. This is God. And this is why these religious people have that whole notion. It don't make sense. Oh, well, what was happening to them in Numbers didn't make sense, but it still was God's will. And if I go against it, this is what's going to happen to me. Bad stuff is going to happen. And this is how these people try to rationalize the stupidness of a lot of these stories and, the questions that we ask, the common sense questions that we ask. The same thing is being asked in the book, in the stories. People, common sense questions. What's going on? Why is this way? Oh, we got to wander and die. Our carcasses got to be left in the wilderness for 40 years because we wanted to go fight for ourselves, or because we asked some questions, because we had doubt and fear, and you're supposed to be God Almighty. It's like, go do this. Let's just do it. But we got questions, so we got to die because of it. So it's crazy when you put it into context, but you can understand how people are looking at this, religious people, and having this whole fear. So now the story is so good, it's gripping, and it's hard for the average Christian, the average person to understand what's happening here historically. As I said, I'm one of the few people that's really giving you this in context as far as, paralleling it with real history, with Greek history. This is the only history that can fit during this time. These are the only people that were going through any kind of war or battle during this time in this area. It's not common sense. It is common sense to see you have the Persians conquer Kemet. Then the Greeks come in and conquer Kemet. And then the Greeks conquer all this land, the whole wars of the Diadochi and everything that took place. Nothing else fits here when you understand what's taking place. So when I went through the whole story, this is the whole reason why we're going through the ancient history series. If you watched it, a lot of this makes sense. So the whole thing is, when you look at the wars of the Diadochi and you see that they were splitting up the land from Alexander, that's what Numbers is about. Plain and simple. Numbers is giving you that history and getting you to understand what's taking place. And in the midst of this, there were wars. Stuff was going on. That's all it's really talking about behind the scenes. Hidden behind this story is that history. Plain and simple. That's what's there. So you can see what's taking place. So basically what they did is they're giving you, as I said, this history of their conquest of us. And we looking and we read and not really understanding, because it's the type of sick stuff they do, that we're reading. And while we get in this discipline of the fear of God and the rules of God, we don't even understand that we're reading about the demise of our ancestors right there in front of our face. Because what's happening around this time is they are breeding these armies to go and take down our people. Plain and simple. That's what it's about. The only history that fits in around this time is that history, that conquest. Now, we don't find much of it, but when we go and look at Greek history and the Greek wars, what was taking place, there it is. This is what we find. And then we know Hellenization, what was happening around that time, and who was the people that was in those lands was us. And it's like people don't want to fathom it because you have the Arabs there. But if we know the Arabs came in and took over from the Romans, Arabs wasn't there. So who was there? It was us, black people. Plain and simple. As I said, the Hebrews got it right in saying that it's black people as far as the Hebrews, but they don't get what's actually taking place. So now we know. All of this is leading up to Deuteronomy, which is the next DVD. Crazy. This is all leading up to Deuteronomy. So they know, telling this story, they're going to come to a point where it has to stop because it's not going to really fit in with actual history. Thus, the whole 40-year cycle of what's taking place. There's a lot of stuff going on in real life around this time, because now you got to remember the King James Version. We don't know what the original said and what the story was about at this point. But what we do know is they are distorting history. And not only are they giving us a hidden story about our conquest, but they are basically eventually going to put themselves in our position. They're stealing two positions in history. They're telling their story of their history. And then they're going to take what happened to us, what they did to us, and then take us out of it and put themselves into it. plain and simple. So, I mean, they're completely wiping us out. They don't even want to put us in the context of us being enslaved. They're going to say, you know, they're the heroes and the victims. Not only was they went through and fought this stuff, but then now they're going to take their triumph and their victory that they had over us and then now put themselves in a place as the people who were being enslaved.